Lori Highby, welcome to the conversation today.
I am super excited to be here, John. Thanks for the invite.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Wisconsin. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how to be a networking superhero. I want to be a superhero in my next life, and I probably can't attain that in the here and now, but I can get a little bit better at networking. And it's not something I love to do, but I know it's a necessity. And so I know I need to learn how to do it better. I think you're going to help me and help my audience to better understand that today. As we get started, I wanted to share Lori's bio with everybody. Lori Highby is a podcast host, speaker, educator, and founder of Keystone Click, a strategic digital marketing agency. Using her vast multi-industry knowledge gained from experience and education, she has the ability to see the potential of greatness within the already established good of a business. Through strategic, actionable moves, she has worked with Fortune 500 companies and to help them achieve their marketing goals. Lori carries her energy and drive into her professional engagements in order to empower and educate other fellow lifelong learners. Now, I could go on, Lori, but I'm going to pause there. Anything else you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Oh, I'm an open book, and I love lifelong learner is probably the best way to position that, but anything related to business and marketing, I love talking about that.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so let's talk. Let's start framing this up then around this networking superhero idea. Why do you think of it as like a superpower? Why would we think about trying to become a networking superhero?
Yeah, that's a great question, one that no one has ever asked me, and I appreciate that. But the reality is, business is done with other people, right? Relationships and anything that we're trying to achieve at the end of the day, it's often based on who you know, right? So,
Yeah.
And networking is not just for professional development, but it's also personal growth and it's relationships as a whole. So being a superhero means that people are viewing you as an asset, right? And they're viewing you as someone that can provide value to them as well. So this superhero positioning is twofold. One, I just love superheroes, so I thought it was a fun play on it. But two, why not try to elevate and be positioned as the very best of something?
Yeah, absolutely. And some people are naturals at this. I was actually just at a networking event earlier this morning, and it's something I do both to support other colleagues as well as it's something I know I should do, but I don't love it. It's kind of a reluctant duty, that I engage in, and I do care about people. I do care about relationships. I just don't like networking events. And so in my mind, I often think about networking in terms of those networking events, and I have to stop and pull back and remind myself, like, no, that's one of many mechanisms to network with people. And my networking superpower may not be in relation to networking events. It may be more in relation to the relationality I have with colleagues and coworkers and people, across the organization or across the industry, in more informal ways that don't happen through those types of networking events. And that's not to say that others can't just love being at those events, love being on, meeting new people constantly. They are renewed by it.
Yeah.
Different people have different strengths, different styles, introvert, extrovert kind of spectrum. All of that feeds into how we view this. But again, like you said, I think it's an absolutely essential component to career development if we want to have a dynamic, successful, empowering career that will give us new, wonderful opportunities. And if we kind of get sucked into our own head and do our own thing, it's nice. I like the idea of my work speaks for itself. I've heard people say that a lot. I've probably said that before as well. My work speaks for myself. I'm productive. I achieve. I do great work. People can see that. They'll notice. They'll want to hire me. Yes, to an extent. But will they know about what you're doing without the network? Will there be enough will your impact be as big as it could be without the network, etc. So these are some of the types of things that I like to think about, and I'd love your help to explore in addition to a traditional networking event, what are some other really great ways that we can start to develop that superpower in ways that might be authentic to us
Yeah, no,
and resonate
I
with
think
us?
that's totally great. I love that. First thing, the word that really stood out to me that you said was the mindset you have going into these networking events. And I think if you can just reframe the thought process around that, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to another networking event, kind of gamify it a little bit, like, oh, I'm going to write a paper about my experience and I need to interview people. Like, so then you're just kind of changing in your head the way that you're thinking about it, and being excited. Oh, I'm excited to meet someone new today, instead of, oh, I'm going to another networking event. So the mindset is definitely something that's really important when you're entering these types of events. But the other thing that I'm a big believer and fan of the 7 habits of highly successful people. And I always forget if it's habit number 2 or habit number 3, but it's start with the end in mind.
Mm,
So, and what I mean by that is really getting clear on what is the goal that you're trying to achieve. And then again, if you're going into an event, being goal driven and knowing that it's because you want to grow and elevate your career, or you're trying to get some new business opportunities, or you're looking for a new strategic partner, or you're looking for someone to help you solve that problem, whatever it is. If you go with an intention, you're going to have greater successes. You're going to be more satisfied with the outcome because you know what it is that you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. So there's so many different little tactics and tips that I can share, but just to go, you're not going to be happy with the end result because you didn't define what success was going to be by attending or participating in a very specific event. But it doesn't always have to be, a structured, organized event. You could definitely take initiative to make some connections and meet new people one-on-one. So I'm a big
yeah.
fan and personally like more intimate settings, if there's a couple people in a room as opposed to 300 people in the room. I personally get intimidated, especially if it's a group or an event where I don't know anyone. I'm more that introvert that says like, oh, I'll just stand on the side and look for someone else that's standing on the side. Then maybe I'll go start talking to them. I'm not the person that just runs up to someone and introduces myself. But there are some tactics around that too, to alleviate the fear. Again, gamifying it a little bit for yourself. I'm a big fan of having a networking buddy. So if I'm attending a new event, I find someone else who's attending, is interested in attending that, either for a similar goal or objective, or even if it's a different goal or objective. What's nice about that is if I'm talking to someone or I meet someone new and that other person actually may be better suited to connect with this person, then I can easily kind of help make that connection for them, and vice versa. So then they're advocating for you and you're advocating for them simultaneously. But there's just a little bit less fear because you're attending something with that buddy system approach. The other thing that I found to be quite successful is if you're not really satisfied with the way events are happening or organized networking groups, is to create your own group. Again, it's defining what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then surround yourself with the folks that are going to help you achieve that goal at the end of the day. I love that quote by Jim Rohn. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So really evaluate, who are you spending your time with? Are they helping you to achieve your goals? And if not, maybe it's time to either create that group of individuals that's going to help elevate you or achieve your goals, or find that new group that does, make you or help you achieve those goals at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. And again, to reiterate, beginning with the end in mind, always having some sort of a purpose behind what you're doing is going to be helpful, whether we're talking about networking or anything else, right?
Yep.
So you're just going to be way more productive. You're going to have a better experience. You're going to get more out of it when you have an intention behind what you're why you're involved in that activity, whatever it may be, and especially if it's something that you don't naturally lean towards. If it's something that maybe you see as a little bit harder or stressful or anxiety inducing, having some sort of a real purpose and intention behind it will 100% help you have a better attitude, help you have a better frame of mind going into that type of an event. Now, it is important to acknowledge, that people do have different ways of feeling drained or energized by their interactions with other people. So if you this is too simplistic, and obviously it's more nuanced than this, but we think about the introversion extroversion spectrum, and there's a lot of people who are introverts who can function completely fine in social situations, but they do get depleted. And then there are other people that are introverts who really struggle in social situations, and they really would want to focus more on the smaller groups. Whatever it is for you, like, but if you feel depleted, or if you feel anxiety around being in that small or in that large type of networking event, you can steel yourself up for it. You can hype yourself up for it when it's necessary, and then recognize that, if this is an event that's going to deplete you, plan, like, what are you going to do following this event to be re-energized, to recharge your batteries, and build that into your day, build that into your schedule, so that it is something you don't have to be so concerned about, or something you have to dread. But we all do stuff we don't love every day and as part of our jobs. And a networking event very much may be that necessary component that you don't love, but you need to do. So let's have a good frame of mind. Let's have a good intention. You also highlighted the fact that, there are a whole slew of other ways that we can build our professional networks, that we can build our personal advisory boards, that we can connect with those around us, so that when the time comes, that we might be looking for a job, we might be looking for a new project or that next opportunity, but it could just be looking for advice. Like, I'm happy where I'm at, I'm in a new role, or I'm working on a new project, I'm in over my head, I'm not quite sure how to address this issue. To have people you can lean on, that you can go to, who you trust, who have your best interests in mind, that is hugely powerful. And as smart as you may be, you will not have all of the answers, and you will not have the ability to address every single problem that comes your way. That's why we surround ourselves with the best people we can. That's why we create those personal advisory boards. That's why we have trusted advisors that we can lean on when there are challenging issues. And that doesn't just happen magically. It doesn't happen overnight. That's something that you have to be committed to, developing those relationships over time, and putting, making deposits in the relationship bucket with those individuals continually, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the strategies that I really am a fan of, I call it the hub and spoke strategy. So instead of having a really wide network and trying to support and nurture that, be really strategic about connecting with the hubs. Those are the people that have the really deep networks, so that I have a really intimate hub group, and I know that if I need support in one specific area, or help me with solve a certain problem, whatever it is, I can go to one of my hub contacts, because it's very likely that they have a spoke contact then that can support. So instead of trying to nurture a vast network of 2,000 people, I'm strategically nurturing maybe more like a dozen people from a more intimate level. But also, that's less intimidating for that introverted individual who just wants a couple of close relationships. Again, be strategic about who those close relationships are, making sure that they have that deeper network. I want to comment another kind of tactic that I put into play for those that kind of get drained very heavily with bigger events. One of the things I do, and this kind of ties into that hub and spoke strategy, is I'll show up for a networking event roughly like 30 minutes earlier than it's supposed to start. So then I'm helping the lead organizer, who is that hub, who has all the connections with that individual in that group, set up. I offer to help with the registration, or get anything organized, because then I'm making an impression with that hub person, that main person. I'm helping them out. A couple other folks that are going to come in early, I can, shake their hands, say hello, introduce myself. And then when the room gets too heavy and it's overwhelming, I can excuse myself, but I've already made that impact on that important person that's kind of leading the event.
Yeah, excellent. So focusing in on high value connections is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely.
Because we all have limited bandwidth. You can't foster high-level connections with 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can foster high-level connections with a handful of people.
Yeah.
The hub and spokes model also, we know, like in the networking research, for example, like the vast majority of people who get jobs through networks, it usually comes through like their secondary network. So they
Mm-hmm.
have their core, but it's the spokes
Yep. Yep.
that end up being the person. So if they reach out to those people they have, like that smaller group, the people they have those good relationships with, then those people can reach out to their people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's usually how those types of connections happen. Sometimes it happens through through the direct connections, but sometimes it's a secondary connection. And so the point is fostering meaningful, valued connections and relationships. You're going to get more out of that than just, having, 20,000 followers or connections on LinkedIn who you don't
Mm-hmm.
actually know, who don't actually have any, no knowledge of you, and there's no mutual connection or investment, no
Yeah.
reciprocal kind of give and take.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
It's not going to do much. It
Yeah.
can like be like a little tiny crack in the door that might allow you to get into an opportunity, but it's not going to be as powerful as having, that really great, um, high value, high quality type of connection that then
Mm-hmm.
can also reach out to their high quality connections on
Yeah.
your behalf.
Yeah. Totally. So I've got one of my podcasts is Social Capital, and the main focus is networking and relationships. And I've interviewed close to 400 professionals on the topic of networking. And I've kind of created what I refer to as my like 3 golden rules of networking. Is that something I can share?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So the first one is be your authentic self. At the end of the day, people can smell fake. It's obvious when you're not being authentic. And you're going to attract the people that you want to attract when you are being your authentic self. The second one is to give first. So as I mentioned, I might show up. I usually like to show up to events early to help, or if I'm meeting with someone, I'm not asking for anything right away. I'm offering what I can do to support, even if it's as simple as like, hey, I need someone to watch my dog this weekend. Like it doesn't have to be business related. It's something you're going out of your way to give because you're being authentic and you're showing that you genuinely care and want to build a relationship with them. And the third thing, and I find that this is often an area where people drop the ball, is to actually follow through. If you're going to tell someone that you're going to do something like, oh, I read an interesting book that I'll send you a copy of it, actually send them the copy of the book, because it's the first impression that you're making with someone, and you want to make sure that you're giving the right impression. So if you don't follow through on a simple promise that you made first time you met with someone, you're going to have it's going to be extremely hard for you to have a long-term positive relationship with them without having to rebuild that trust right away. So be your authentic self, give first, and follow through are the 3 things that I've heard over and over and over again by interviewing, like I said, close to 400 individuals on this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to, like, I just mentioned LinkedIn, and I don't mean to be disparaging because it's a powerful platform for connecting and
100%.
networking.
Yep.
But the difference between kind of the superficial connections and the meaningful connections is exactly what you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you add value through, say, LinkedIn, for example, through what you're posting, through your engagements with people who follow you, through the connections that you have, that matters. And when you add value to those high quality connections, you can build those relationships over time, and you can build the trust over time. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I know most people wake up with good intentions and wanting to treat others with dignity and respect, and they want to do what they say they're going to do and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. The reality is we all get busy. We all get sometimes overwhelmed. We oftentimes will have the best of intentions to do what we say we're going to do, but we fall short. And so I think most people will be, they understand that, and most people will be forgiving, but you're 100% right that we are setting ourselves up for a harder slog of trying to develop trust when we don't follow through with the simple things.
Mm-hmm.
So, under promise, over deliver. That's what we always say, right? And so,
100%. Yep.
and don't say you're going to do something if you don't know that you're going to have the capacity to be able to do it, because you're not winning over anybody by making outrageous claims, by saying you're going to be doing all sorts of things that you couldn't possibly do. So I have to admit, like when I am interacting with a new person, a lot of times they'll say something like, you know, hey, I'll send you a link to this thing, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. Most of the time, I don't think it'll happen, just because I've had enough of those interactions. And then when it does happen, I'm really pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, that's great. They followed through. If it doesn't happen, I don't take it personally. I don't think like they're like a horrible person or anything or whatever, but I just, you know, I'm like, okay, well, this probably isn't a particularly high priority for this person, and we'll see where it goes. And maybe something else will happen in the future. But like you said, it's starts you off on the wrong foot. And it's not necessary. Like people know that you can't be everything for everyone all the time. And so just be thoughtful about when you're making promises, when you're committing yourself, and then follow through as best you can whenever you can. And if you can't directly follow through with what you said you're going to do, at least follow up to say, hey, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to this, but you know, I just want to let you know that I'm here and that I do look forward to meeting with you or whatever. Like just have that brief follow-up comment. That will go a long way, even if you didn't end up being able to do what you said you wanted to do in the first place.
Yep, totally. 100% agree with all of that.
And that's genuine, to your point. Like everyone lives that every day. Like we do the best we can, but we know that we're not going to be perfect.
Things happen. Yeah, that's okay. But be transparent about it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Lori, I know the time, I need to let you go, but before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you and find out more about your work, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Yeah. So I am very active on LinkedIn. I really put a lot of emphasis on providing value. I try to post something of value every single day. So just look for Lori Highby. Otherwise, you can check out our website at keystoneclick.com. Final tip. You know, I would say the way you're going to stand out is to do the ordinary things extraordinarily well.
Yeah. Be consistent. That's the most important thing. Thank you, Lori. It's been really great to talk with you. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Lori and her team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day.